Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Halftime with Bizzy, and today I'm very excited to bring today's guest to you guys. Today, for episode number 90, we have NatTea joining us. A few weeks ago, NatTea was the host for BLAST Rotterdam, which has obviously been long concluded at the time of this coming out, but I thought that she did a great job, and I was like, you know what, we gotta get her on the podcast. And she was more than willing to, so that's what we're doing here today. If you're new to the podcast, we do weekly Friday episodes, 12 p.m. Eastern. I try my best to make it happen every single Friday. As you guys that are returning to the podcast today know, we did miss last Friday, unfortunately, so we are going to be picking it back up and carrying on. Last thing I want to say before we jump right into things, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. It helps me out a great deal. We just hit over 600 not too long ago. Thank you guys very much for that. I still think we got some work to do. I would love to see 1K by the end of the year. I might be shooting high, but that's what I'd like to see. We'll see if it happens. And also comment down below. Let me know what you think of the podcast. Let me know what you think. And yeah, give a thumbs up on the video. Like the video too. But we're going to tap out here and we'll catch you guys on the outro.
All I have is my iPad, so hopefully that's okay, because at the moment I'm in a hotel room, so
Yeah,
I got no
no.
other solution.
That's totally cool with me. I appreciate you wanting to do it, even though you're like on the go and you're doing your own thing at that event and everything. Like, I appreciate you lending me the time.
Yeah. Look, I won't lie. I background checked. I sent Launders a message. I'm like, "Is this bro legit?" And he's like, "Yeah, he's cool." I was like, "All right, sounds good." And then I emailed you back, and I was like, "Yeah, we can do it."
No, that's awesome. I love Wanders. I live like 40 minutes away from him. He's a good dude.
He is so good. He was saying that he saw you at like a bunch of different events, and he's like, "Yeah, he's like just such a grinder. Like all he wants to do is just like get things done." And I was like, "I appreciate that then."
Tell me how an electrical engineer will later become a host in esports in Dota 2, Valorant, and now Counter-Strike 2.
That is a very, very valid question. I don't know, like part of me, when I reflect now on like doing engineering, so much of my brain is like wired logically that it just made sense. But I'm just the complete inverse. I'm so extroverted that it's like, did I really think I was ever gonna like find a fulfilling life sitting behind a computer and doing engineering work? So it's a bit of a funny one. But for me, I'm like maybe the inverse of a lot of people, quite thankful to some degree, obviously, here that COVID happened, because with COVID happening, it's like everyone could work from home. And that meant not just like people with 9 to 5s, but also esports work could be done remotely. So you didn't have to be on site, living in that city, to be in that studio to do esports work. And so, yeah, my first year for esports was 2021, and I still worked full time as a an electrical engineer at that time. And I would just like reshuffle my work hours to make sure that I could do evening and afternoon broadcasts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's like waking up at 5:30, getting in the office at 6. And I think it was like at the time I was doing a League of Legends broadcast, so I was only working 3 days a week, and I believe it was Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday from memory. So I would pull longer days on Monday and Thursdays so that I could end earlier on Tuesday, Wednesdays, Fridays and
Oh
do the
my
broadcast.
God.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like definitely on the grind, the Grossel back then.
So was like electrical engineering, was that something that you like, maybe your parents kind of like, you got to go to school, you got to go to college or university and figure something out. And you're just like, oh, well, I'll pick this and, we'll just roll with that and see where it takes me. Or was this like something that you're actually interested in and then kind of just, your interest changed and shifted elsewhere?
I would say it was a lot of like my interest just changed. I mean, my parents are unbelievably like I would say free spirits, but they're just like so open to a lot of things that I think most people didn't get to experience with their parents. And like as I share my story more and people share theirs with me, I'm like, oh, I knew I was lucky, but I didn't realize I rolled like essentially like a nat 20 on parents. So they were always so open for anything I wanted to do. But coming out of high school, it was definitely they wanted me to have a plan for the future. Whether I stuck with it or not, they always wanted that. I took a gap year straight out of out of high school, I was like the definition of like the old school me, where it's like my gap year, going on a gap year, and all that sort of stuff. Where it's like I changed so much as a person. Um, but yeah, so I did like my exploring of who I was as a person, as you can as a 17-year-old, 18-year-old at that time, and then went in and did university. And I definitely was always interested in engineering. I think throughout high school, my subjects that I excelled the most at were maths and any form of science, like physics and chemistry, especially. So originally, I wanted to do chemical engineering and get into it that way. But just as I progressed through uni, it was more like, oh, I don't know if I really want to do it as much. It doesn't feel like what my idea of chemical engineering was. Did not like civil engineering, and my brain could not understand mechanical engineering for the life of me. And so I kind of fell into electrical engineering more than anything. But I loved it, especially like the electronics components of it. And then through that, I just met a lot of other people that were into video games. I'd always been into it because my dad's a bit of a gamer and my brother is as well. But when it came to like making more friendships at uni, everyone's like, "Yeah, we love video games." And I was like, "Okay, let's play video games." Um, and so stumbled into like playing a lot more Dota that way because there was like a core group at uni and they're just like big gamers, loved Dota so much. And so fell into it that way.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And then I guess you would start watching the esports and stuff and kind of start surrounding yourself in that type of environment.
Yeah, I was saying this. It's so funny, like living in such a different time zone to the majority of esports. Because at the time it was very NA and EU heavy. I mean, it's still very EU heavy now, but they were the time zones you would have to adhere to. So being in the opposite time zone, I would either wake up towards the tail end of an event ending, if it was like in NA or something, it'd end about midday my time for the day, or if it was in EU, it would start at like 8 p.m. my time. And so I was literally going to bed last night. And I was like, I kind of miss being in the Oz time zone. Because what am I supposed to fall asleep to now? Like, I don't know. Esports is on. Like, the day's done. Like, what the fuck am I supposed? There's no Valorant on. There's no Dota on. There's no CS on. Like, what? Go to YouTube? Like, what the fuck is this? So I think there was a joy in being in such an opposite time zone because I got to catch the tail end of some events for their days, and catch the beginning of other events. And then when you have like this random 6 hour window of nothing on, I would just go back and I would watch VODs. It was like a dual monitor setup at uni. I'd be studying on my main one, and it would either be running a live broadcast or like a VOD of a tournament, mostly Dota at the time. And that's all I would do was just like grind out old VODs. And I was like, damn, like pipe dream, if anything could happen in my life, I would want to work as a host in esports. I had no means to get there. I had like no pathway, like it was exploring a jungle for the first time where it's like,
Oh,
I know my
wow.
end goal is to find like this hidden temple that definitely exists and other people have found it, but I don't know the pathway for it. And then,
So
yeah,
you
as
had
time
no
progressed,
connections or anything? You didn't know anybody in the
nothing,
industry?
nothing at all. Literally, my only connection
Wow.
to esports back in 2017, 16, 17, when I started watching it, was literally just these people that I played Dota with. That was it. That's all I had at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And it's not easy
Yeah.
to just go break through and then be the face of a broadcast. I mean, like, that's
No.
not a small thing we're talking about. That's crazy.
Yeah. When I look back, I'm just like, oh, that's coming up to like 10 years that I've been, not even actually, when you think of it, it's mostly just 8, 9 years that I've been invested in watching a lot of esports. So it feels like a whirlwind when I meet other people and they're like, I've been doing this now for like just over a decade. I'm like, What?"
Yeah, and time flies, I could imagine too, when you're flying around everywhere and you're, almost 200 days a year. Sometimes you're not home and you're just traveling, 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 and then you blink and you're like, "Whoa, what the hell? It's almost like 2030." Like,
Dude, legit, legit. Or you're looking for upcoming year and you're like, I don't have that much going on. My calendar's pretty okay. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I got something every month, and now it's Christmas.
yeah, literally. But that's a good problem to have though, because some people
Oh, for sure.
don't get work, and I've had a
Yeah.
few guests that have had struggles with that too, and it's crazy. But that's good to hear. That's awesome. I love the backstory, and I don't know how many people, especially from the CS scene, might even know that. So it's cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, like my first CS event, I think I mentioned it like briefly, but even the other talent I didn't really talk too much about this with. My first ever esports event, I flew down to Sydney. So I'm from Brisbane originally. And so I took like a 2-hour flight down to Sydney for IEM Sydney in 2018. So it was like
Yes.
the second time it had ever existed. And I just volunteered. Like I did not even get paid to do anything there. I was behind the scenes. I was stuffing like the people that buy like the VIP or the premium tickets and they get
Oh
those goodie
yeah.
bags.
Yeah.
I have such vivid memories of spending like 4.5 hours of putting medals into a box, into a
Oh.
bag, and making sure there's like a wristband that goes in there and a pamphlet that goes in. And all I did was just create these VIP goodie bags for four
Oh
and a half
my
hours.
god. And you were also player management too, right? That was my next question. So tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
So 2018, IM Sydney 2018 was my first one. And I met a lot of people in like the ESL Australia branch. And at the time, I don't know like their full history, but at the time, um, they were still in the works of kind of becoming a part of ESL because it was like five dudes just started up a TO essentially, like indirectly started putting on tournaments and became a TO. They loved it. They are all so unbelievably fantastic at their job. Um, and so, yeah, they put on, obviously, with the help of some more people, but ultimately, what started out as like this core group of just guys who loved Halo and ended up eventuating to being such a integral part of Australian esports. Um, they didn't have a lot of casual employees or even full-time employees at that point. And so I think I did get pretty lucky with the timing where they're like, we just need people for manual labor. And if they're good, we can kind of find them for casual work for events. So it's like they won't come on as full time employees, but say we get another IEM, we could bring them down, pay them a little bit of money, and then we would just have that like grunt work that we really needed. And so for the rest of 2018, it was a mix of that for me, where it's like I was doing anything they wanted. I was flying around to whatever events they wanted to in Australia, whether it was setting up computers or Xboxes, like just whatever they wanted. I'm like, yeah, I'm there for it.
Sign me up.
Yeah, literally. And that was during the last year of my engineering degree. And so then 2019 comes around, IEM is there, and it's like in the last semester of my degree. And I kind of like eventuate from being this like casual worker that just does all the random like throw PCs together, do like the interview backdrops that they do recordings. Like I used to make those, like that was the old jobs. And they're like, you're gonna be player manager. And I was like, what now? I'm like, you just got to make sure the teams are getting to the right places at the right time. And I'm like, what the fuck? And like, we have no doubt you'll do a great job. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And I remember my first day of it was like, go to the airport and meet these teams and make sure they get on the bus. And I'm like, I don't know what any of these people look like, and they have no idea.
Oh
Well, so I'm
my
just wearing like an
god.
ESL Australia shirt with a sign, and I'm like, hey man, yeah, get on the bus, see you later, no, take your name off. We're so like bare bones grassroots. I'm like, that was my briefing. But I had a lot
Holy.
of fun with it.
That's a tall, like, setting up the PCs or the backdrops or the
Yeah,
goodie bags, that's one thing, but
I can do
go
that.
pick up the players, make sure they get on the bus and bring them back here, like, that's a
Yeah,
tall order. That's crazy.
yeah, yeah. And then just throughout the event, like making sure that they were getting on shuttles in time, making sure no one was left behind. Like, at the end of the day, it's not like it's a tough job by any means, but it's overwhelming when it's like 80 players, people you've never met. You have to talk to other, like their own team managers. And we have our own team of like player managers that, oh, are you looking after this team? There's just a lot of communication aspects to it, which is like where I think the harder part of it is. But even then, it's still a very relaxed job, just long days and a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, I know, Watsy from Blast, I don't know if you might know him, he's the esport operation manager.
Okay.
Um, he's told me, like literally like 14, 15-hour days, especially setting up for like a major or something like that. I mean, I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
even know if these people sleep. Like I couldn't even imagine all the communication is probably so key. If you don't have communication, you don't have a system. Like at the end of the day, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I always say like there's so many people in production that where they're like, dude, I don't know how you guys do it. Like you go out on camera for like, 12 hours or whatever. Sometimes it's a little bit less. I was like, what do you mean, what about me? You guys have been here like 6 hours before we came in. And they're like, yeah, but we're not on camera, so it doesn't matter. And I'm like, doesn't make your job any less difficult or any less
Yeah.
important. Like I wouldn't have a camera to stand in front of if you guys weren't doing what you were doing. So I have the utmost respect for production, more than anyone, I think.
Yeah, it's a hard job. And then, there's the whole angle of if production lacks or maybe there's an error while they're live or something, the chat's going, "Oh my god, PGL audio guy, oh, the production guy's cooked." It's just like these people do everything. They make one tiny error and they'll
Yeah.
always hear about it. It's like, man, give them a break sometimes.
Bro's on like hour 18 and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't
Yeah.
believe he muted that mic. And I'm like, it's not that deep. It's not that deep, guys. Come on. I love a good copy pasta, don't get me wrong. It's just not that deep.
Yeah, it's exactly. So, tell me a little bit about how you got kind of talking with Blast and how the whole Rotterdam thing kind of transpired for you. Because that, like, you were like a brand new face. Nobody had really seen
Yeah.
you in CS before. Maybe you worked behind the scenes, but we had never seen you, especially being a host, instead of being like an analyst or a caster or something, to be the face of the stream. Tell me how that kind of whole played out and how you kind of got in touch with Blast for that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I've gone through like many different iterations as myself as a host where this is like indirectly answering your question, by the way. I'm just a bit of a yapper. So if at any point you're like that no one asked,
It's all
I will
good.
take that
No, you're
criticism.
good. You're good. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, I think I've just gone through like so many different iterations of myself as a host because when I look at a lot of people's longevity within the scene, they're all like, "Oh, I was a caster first, and then I came over to being a desk analyst," or like, "I was an analyst and now I'm a host," and I'm like, I came in as a host and that's all I've ever really known. And so I think upskilling when you've only ever really known one role is really difficult. I think, that's why I think I have more respect for other talent that have gone through so much and through different roles. Some people might look at it and be like, oh, they never really found their thing. And so, like, they're not really good at that. But, like, they found something now that works for them. And I'm just like, bro, they tried like on screen. I think it's so difficult because there's a lot of eyes, a lot of voices, and things like that. Um, that kind of like create this pressure towards you of like finding who you are as either a talent, whether that's analyst or host or whatnot. And so for me, I was originally a Dota host, and well, I was technically a league interviewer, and then came over to do Dota hosting. And I was very much a fake it till you make it because I had never really garnered anything when it came to the hosting role at all. Um, and so I did Dota for pretty much all of 2022 is when I went full time. So I did that in 2022, 23, 24, and 25. Blast enters the Dota scene at the end of 2024 in November. Um, and that process was really cool, by the way. I've never really seen it. They kind of cold emailed every Dota talent and was like, "Hey, we'd love to take meetings, like video calls, just brief ones to see if you'd be a fit for our." I'm like so leaking Blast's like the way they enter a scene now. But it was so like disarming and so welcoming. Where they're like, "Yeah, we're a new TO. We would love to get in contact with everyone, take time to talk to you guys, and see if you fit like the end result of what we want to do for a Blast Dota production." And so they ended up taking calls with everyone. And then they even went the extra mile that for people they decided not to go with, they even emailed them. They're like, "Hey, we appreciate your time that you spent with us, but we're going to go a different direction. That's not to say like we won't consider you in the future, but just for now, we're going to go with some other people."
And
And I
and
remember
TOs don't always do that. They don't
no,
always do that.
they don't do that in Dota either. So like when it happened, I remember like our Dota talent chat, we were all just like popping off like, bro, what the heck? Like what? I can't believe this. And it wasn't like a, oh, I didn't get hired. It's like a, now we don't have to sit here and be like who got hired, like has offers gone out, like what's happening there. Everyone was on the same page of like, yeah, we're just they've already sorted it out. But I was one of the ones that was lucky enough to be like, yeah, we would love to have you on for our Dota product and see where things go. And then I did all of their 2025 events. But during 2025, by the way, I'm finally getting to answer your question after 10 minutes of yapping.
You're good.
Um, Throughout 2025, it was very much a conversation between me and some people in Blast production of like, oh, do you watch CS? Are you interested in CS? Would there be any realm that you'd feel comfortable doing it? And every time they came to me, I'm like, yes. Like whenever Dota's not on, I'm watching CS. Like, yes, 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 yes. I have never watched it through an analytical eye, but I just love watching CS. CS is my when Dota's not on, it's going to be on my monitor type thing. Um, and so I guess it was like some internal conversations of people liking what I had done on the Dota product, alongside me being like, "Hey, do you think CS is still an option?" Blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. As well as, I think a little bit mixed in with I am Copenhagen based, which helps them out a lot as well because they're
Big time.
Copenhagen based. Um, and so then I think it was just this perfect mix of a storm where in January they emailed me and they're like, "Hey," like the CS product manager was like, "Hey, we heard you'd like to do CS. Do you want to do this upcoming Rotterdam event?" Immediately I'm like, "Yep, sounds good. What are the dates?" Like I don't I don't even need to know any more details, but I guess I should ask a question here. Told me the dates and I was like, "Yeah, it works out perfectly. Would love to come over." Started doing a bit more research on it. I'm like, "Wow, it's a bigger event than I thought. I thought it was just going to be a studio event. But they're really kind of taking a chance on me, huh? That's kind of crazy." Okay. But yeah, that's so for me it was like I'd known the Blast production guys for at least a year, and then CS was like, "Oh, we're interested in bringing someone new across. You obviously know all the Blast guys, so it's not like a full new face for us. Do you want to give it a go?" I was like, "Yeah, yes I do."
So it was relatively easy in the end of it because you already had contacts and kind of knew people, and they just kind of shifted you a certain direction to head towards CS, and then everything kind of fell into place that way.
Yeah, it was like a live audition, if you can think about it
Oh,
that way.
wow.
They're like, "We would love to trial you out." And I'm like, "Yeah, sounds good." And they're like, "If it goes well, who knows?" And I'm just like, "Who knows?" Thanks, didn't need the extra pressure.
So, in general, being a desk host and an interviewer on such a large platform in a part of the esports industry that you hadn't even been
Mm,
on screen for at this time, that comes with a lot of pressure. So, even though you're a host previously and for other esports and stuff like that, as Counter-Strike especially is known for its toxicity at times. um People, they see a new face and immediately, like, I saw some stuff in the chat like, who the hell is this girl and stuff, like immediate, like, you hadn't even had said a word yet, the camera was just like zooming in or something, and people are already just
mhm.
like typing in chat, and it's just like, man, like, we can't have anyone else enter the scene without people going, what the hell, that's not the same people we've been watching for like 8 years now. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably already knew about, how the CS scene kind of is and how people kind of are, like, chatting from home and stuff like that. But I kind of wanted to know a little bit about the pressure of being like a brand new talking head in the scene, and how you kind of made it an approach to stand out and not just be a talking head. You wanted to be somebody.
I'm gonna take that as a compliment, first of all, thank you. Um, I actually wasn't super aware of, like, CS communities, um, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, their habits towards new talent for a couple of reasons. I didn't want to look into it. At the end of the day, it's like if I'm going to go back and see how they reacted to new talent, what if I found something that I didn't like the answer to? I also have to like work within my measurements of what can I handle, because I think a lot of people sit at home and they're like, "Oh, talent," or even just general celebrities, they're like, they're in the limelight, like, we can say things like they have thick skins. I don't have thick skin. Please don't say mean things about me. I'm very, very thin skinned and I will cry. So don't do that, please. Um, but it's just like I know that about myself, whether that's trial through fire, there's a lot of things come with being in the scene, even for a small amount of time. Um, and so I knew I didn't really want to look into it. So I actually wasn't really super aware of like how CS reacted to new talent. But I also know you guys haven't had new talent in quite a while. I know Shocks came
Yes.
over a couple of years ago and she's been showing her face here and there. But she's like extraordinarily amazing at her job. So it made sense that people would be very receptive to her. I'm like, she is a dime in a dozen. She's very good at what she does. And so then I also was like, damn, if the most recent new talent they've had is Shocks, I'm like, well, they better set their expectations real low? um, but yeah, I guess like I didn't think about it too much. I know people are always going to say what they want to say. There's always a part of me that thinks about it too, where it's like, maybe it's just the vocal minority. There's so many people that watch CS that if you see a thread on any platform with 500 comments, even if they're all negative, 500 in a sea of like 80,000 viewers really is not that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very small. The other thing is trying to improve yourself as a talent is difficult in where to go to find that information. Some TOs are very good at giving feedback, some aren't. Some co-workers, like fellow talent, are really good at it, some aren't. And when you feel like you're stagnating, sometimes I think you ultimately want to resort to just finding any sort of feedback, and that's where you end up going to a lot of community forums.
Yeah.
But you also have to take that with a grain of salt, where it's like that's that personal that sorry, that is that person's personal preference of not enjoying that certain aspect. Um, and so yeah, I think I just came in and I really wanted to be myself in the last 12 months. Um, Sorry, I'm saying a lot of arms. But in the last 12 months, I have been really trying to figure out who I am as a host because I went through like a bit of a rough patch about a year ago, and it kind of really tore apart who I thought I was as an on-screen talent. And I did, it hit me really personally because at the end of the day, I don't go out there and put on a persona for streams and for broadcasts. I go out there and I am me. And so when someone says that they don't like an aspect, it's really hard to not sit there and be like, oh, they don't like me as a person, and I guess I'm just not a likable person. That's not it. There are going to be many people I meet in life, whether it's through broadcast or not, that just don't like who I am. But you also have to be able to filter through that and be like, what is actual valid feedback and criticism too?
Yes.
Um, and so the last year for me has been really looking at why did it feel like 3 years ago I was much better than where I'm at right now in the middle of 2025, despite having more technical skills and having had more reps within the hosting role. And I think it's just because I genuinely lost who I was. I tried to like bend my knee in every which way to adhere to what everyone wanted from me. And so at the start of this year, I really made it like an active decision to be more true to who I was, because now it felt like I was going out onto broadcast and putting on a persona. And now I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to go back to being who I am, whether people really liked that or not. And I know the laughing sometimes like really annoys some people, but I cannot help it. Like I'm genuinely having a good time.
I mean, like, I don't know what would be the problem with that. You could sit up there and just be like, have no energy and just like, and then people would have something to say about that. So it's like, pick your poison.
Sure.
Do you want to see someone bring some type of energy to the broadcast and make you hopefully laugh at home? Or do you want to just sit there and be a completely, straight face, no energy, no
That's not
emotion, no
me.
character? Yeah, like no one wants to see that, especially if you're the host, for crying out loud. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I think is super funny too, what you were saying about the whole vocal minority and everything, I see it all the time, especially with FaZe lately. You'll see
Oh,
people in the chat, they'll be, Kerrigan's washed, Brokey can't hit op shots. And then the next round they'll pop off, or like 3 rounds later they'll pop off and have a crazy round. And if you click on the people's names, you can search through their like recent Twitch
oh,
chat messages,
messages.
and
Yeah.
they're like, oh my god, Brokey's the goat. Oh, Kerrigan's the goat. It's just
He's the
like these are the
goat.
people that are judging you and other people on the desk and everything. It's just like people are so
That was
stupid.
actually my Twitch account you were looking at, by the way. So if you could just not say the username, that'd be nice.
No, but I think you do a great job, and I think you meshed in really well with all the other talent up there. And I know a few of the other talent members too, like a couple analysts and like launders we were talking about too, and they're all super generous people. They're super
Yeah,
genuine, like they're really good. So to be thrown into a new scene and work alongside them, I'm sure is an absolute treat. Like I don't know who else. Those are the best of the best right there.
dude, I got so lucky. That's the other thing. People are like, "Oh, you did such a great job," and I'm like, "Thank you," and I take that compliment. But I also know that like what feels like a lot of my success was because my foundation was so good. I got to be on a panel with Maui and Dupree, and they were both so unbelievably open. And I'm sure if I was on like any other panel, they would be very like open and welcoming too. But it was just the way that I could wholeheartedly trust them and know that they were going to have my back. And then I would come in the morning as well, and I would kind of just shoot the shit with like the second panel, Mike and Vu and Pimp as well, and just talk with them. And that was really nice too, because it was like I got to have a different perspective on a lot of what was happening. So it wasn't like I was only talking to Dupree and Maui. I was like making an effort to talk to like Vu and Pimp and Mike as well, and get their viewpoints on things. And they were so generous with their time and with their knowledge. And then same thing extended to the casters, like getting to hang out with like Henry and Anders, and then Launders and Scrawny. Like they are just like the most amazing people, all of them. I really truly don't think I could have gotten any luckier in terms of the cast that I got to spend my first CS event with.
For sure. Absolutely. And one thing I have to say too that is really impressive is like me personally, I'm CS. There's the tunnel is CS.
Oh
I
yeah.
everything like Valorant, Dota, all this never I never watched a second of esports of any of those in my life. I don't even think I've ever played Dota 2. I played League of Legends once when I was like 14 on a laptop
Mhm.
with my cousin, and he was just
As
telling
we
me
all
to
have.
yeah, and he was just like I was like, "What the hell do I do?" He's like, "Click that, buy that, click that," and I'm just like, "The fuck, this game sucks, man! Like, I don't even know what I'm doing." So I've always just been CS ever since my start on PC gaming. But one thing I think is really amazing is like, especially right now, like on the weekend, the whole VRS cutoff just finished up. So it's
Mm.
been a race to get points to qualify for the major. I
Yeah.
mean, if you sleep, you miss some of the biggest things that are happening. And when I think about a time like that for me, just as a viewer who works a normal job and does content and stuff on the side, that's a lot. And then I think about like you or, any of the other analysts or casters, like you guys have to be so immersed in what you're doing. And you specifically, you're involved in numerous esports. So when you're traveling around and maybe doing a Dota gig over here, and then now you got to do a CS Rotterdam gig over here, how do you keep up with everything and how do you stay on top of, keeping up with so many esports? I think that is an absolutely incredible thing to be able to do.
That is a valid question. I think the Dota aspect for me now is pretty good in the way that things feel quite second nature in my knowledge. Like, I've been doing it for 4 years. A lot of that stuff is just, oh, I can glimpse at results and be like, oh, that was expected or that was unexpected. But gosh, leading into CS, knowing that I had Valorant right off the back of it was so insane because there was a PGL Dota event that was happening at the same time that EPL was happening, at the same time as Master Santiago was happening. And so my day was literally planned out that I would wake up and I would have the CS, like EPL, on another monitor muted, the PGL open. I would unmute for the desk segments, but mute for the game. Sorry, casters. Love you guys. But there was so much going on. And then as soon as Santiago would start, it was like the only thing that I would really watch because it was on for a significantly shorter time and because of the time zone as well. It would sort of start as the others were ending. And so I would just alternate between listening to them, and then if nothing was on, I would go back and I would watch old broadcasts. And I think I went back and I watched like a bunch of Cluj. I watched a bunch of Krakow as well. I even watched the Blast Bounty at the start of the year too. Um, and yeah, it was just like a lot of watching things, trying to like see the viewpoint analysts had for each team so that I could lay a foundation of where teams currently were at in the eyes of my analysts. Do they think that this is the best team? Do they not? Like, it helps me steer a direction or a narrative when I get them on my desk. And bless up, Maui co-streams so much. So sometimes I would just actually watch his co-stream instead of watching EPL. And that helped me too to understand like um, where he is. He's also got an insane knowledge, by the way. I've never met someone with a memory like his on like results, rounds. He would be like, oh, we watched Zaiwu 1 for 5, and he's like, I remember this reminded me of like this specific series at like
Oh yeah.
Austin Major, and I'm like, bro, what? Like,
Yeah.
no one can say that shit. Like, you're fucking cracked. Like, you're insane. So I think that also helped me was watching a lot of Maui stream, co-stream at the time. Um, and there's a little bit of hedging your bets when it's such a big team event is even though it's double elimination, I'm only working half the day for the first part of the Blast Open. And I have to kind of be like, okay, I know what my schedule is like for the first 2 days. And then I have to hedge my bets on who's going to go through into the upper bracket and focus up on them a little bit more. And unfortunately, it does mean teams like I never covered NRG, right? Which is kind of good because I also didn't really do as much of a deep dive on them.
There
So
you
it's one
go.
of those things that you have to hedge your bets a little bit because in a time span of 3 weeks, I'm never going to be able to do the full history of
No,
every team and do them justice. Like, I'm just not going to be. So you kind of have to look at these teams are more likely to make it further. They're also more likely to have like more impact and also like just the depth of what can we talk about there. So you just make sure you have like a baseline of every team and then you go way deeper into teams that you're just like we will want to be breaking these teams apart because we will be talking about them a lot more than a team who might unfortunately not even make it out of groups.
for sure. And that's the best part about having, a guy like Dupree especially and then Maui on the
Yes.
desk too. Then you can just start bouncing stuff off of them and like they've been around the scene for I mean, especially Dupree for absolutely ever at this point. I mean, these are the
Yeah.
guys that can, you can lay the foundation and they can do the deep dive, it's a perfect system for sure. I just think it's amazing that throughout all the traveling and you working events and then doing work for other events at those events and completely different games. Like I don't know how you guys do it, man. I don't know how you guys do it.
I was literally watching the PGL event just before we got into this call.
Yeah,
I
same
was
here.
sitting there and I was like doing my Valorant prep and then I just had like on my phone I'm just watching the PGL CS event and then on my iPad yeah it's just like writing down my notes for Valorant because we start tomorrow or like we have day one tomorrow for week two so
Okay, gotcha. And are you looking to come back and do more CS stuff? Have you been talking to TOs? I don't know what you could say about it, but just for people that might be curious.
I mean, I definitely want to do a lot more CS. I think in my ideal world, as I see it at this point in time, if I could do a calendar year that mostly revolved around Dota and CS, like I'd be extremely happy. I don't see myself leaving Dota. I know a lot of people, whether it's tongue in cheek or not, that upset to not see me at Dota events. The other thing that sort of like went hand in hand for me reaching out a lot more to do other esports so like Valorant I sort of actively pursued when I heard that there was potential for an opening there. Um, is because I'm not getting looked at so much for other TOs within Dota. Everyone has their talent that they want to work with, and that's fine. I have no qualms with that. If at the end of the day they're like, we're just very happy with the makeshift of our current talent, that's fine. But when I look at myself financially or even outside of that, like keeping myself busy and keeping going in something I'm passionate about, I have to be seeking out new active roles. And so I will always say yes to a Dota event. But if the offers aren't there, then it's like I want to start looking outwards. And for me, I loved the CS events so much that I'm like, I want to do more CS events. Like I really, truly, I think it was one of my favorite events I had done in the last couple of years for me personally as a professional. I loved
Wow.
it so much. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I
Yeah.
gotta say too, it's respectable the whole like, the grind of, reaching out here, reaching out there, doing, you got your hands in a lot of places for, doing events and stuff like that. And I think that's really important because like you said, Anders you worked with too, obviously.
Yeah.
There was a point in time I had him on the podcast about just over a year ago. And, he was going through a struggle and he's been around for 10 plus years. And he, especially in the early days of CSGO, I mean, this guy was the voice of like he has so many iconic sound bites. And then, it's just at a point in time where TOs have their certain people that they like. And obviously
Yeah.
the fans like those people. That's why the TOs are picking them. And, once you kind of have those people, it's hard to step over their foot and, jump them in line. It's just not that easy. So to have,
It's
your hand in a lot of places and be doing a lot of things in the industry is really important. And, maybe let's say for argument's sake, CS becomes like something that people really gravitate to you toward, then the TOs will gravitate toward you more, and then it works out in the end. So I think you're doing it the right way, and definitely not easy, but it's good.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that. No, it is. It is always like that weird thing. Like, and I definitely understand what Anders is saying. Like, just going through like a rough patch where you're like, I don't really know where I belong in a scene anymore. I remember like coming through Dota and I was like, oh, how do you start feeling more secure in your job that like you're actually going to be a staple, that you're something people will consider seeing more often in their screens? And it's funny because I do a lot of Dota events, but there's still a part of me that's just like, I don't see myself as a staple in Dota and I don't know what it is. I think it's just like own personal self doubt. Like I think I actually am that, but I just don't, I can't recognize that um, for myself. But I'm also like very aware that at the end of every calendar year, there is just like something different that happens where I'm like, oh, this is going to be the last year for me. Because at the end of 2022, I was like, I'd given up engineering full time. And I was like, at the end of 22, I'm like, this is going to be great. Like, next year will be really good. And then it's announced that like Beyond the Summit is closing doors. And I'm like, well, that was the one tier that was giving me work. I'm like, I'm going to go back to engineering.
Oh,
And at the start of 2023, I got lucky enough that PGL saw something in me and they wanted me to do their DPC shows from their Bucharest um, studio. And so 2023 was pretty good for me. And then at the end of 2023, Valve were like, yep, we're closing the DPC. The Dota Pro circuit doesn't exist anymore. And I'm like, oh my fucking god. Well, if there's no DPC, I don't know how many events are gonna happen. So I don't even know if I'm gonna have a job at this point. Like, is Dota gonna die from this? And then it was like PGL offered me, and then I got to go over and do EWC, which was like my first time working with ESL as well. So then 2024 still ended up being a good year for me. And then towards the end of 2024, PGL were like, oh, we want to bring in Richard Lewis as our second host for Dota. And I'm like, oh my fucking God, I'm going to kill myself. Like now PGL doesn't want to work with me. Like there's no TO that wants me anymore. And then Blast enters the scene and they're like, yeah, we really like you. We want to work with you in 2025. So then my 2025 ends up being good. And then, 2025 ends and I'm not getting any more work with PGL or ESL, and it's only the 4 Blast events because you don't know if like you're good enough that you're gonna get EWC or TI for the year. So I'm like 4 events in the year. I'm like, oh my fucking god, 2026 is gonna be my last year. Like I can't live off 4 events a year. I'm like, this is the fucking worst.
oh
And then
man.
2026 rolls around and Blast like, hey, you want to do CS? And Riot's like, you want to do Valorant? And I'm like, we're so back, chat. It's not. So on 2026 is our year. Let's go.
Life always has the craziest curveballs. And to be a freelancer too, like I couldn't even imagine the
Yeah.
stress that endures. Like, holy crap, that's wild.
Yeah, it's like at the end of every year, I'm like, great, I'm home for Christmas. And now I
Boom.
don't even know if I'm gonna exactly like the most devastating, heartbreaking news you've ever heard your professional career comes out, and you're like, oh my fucking god, you're like crying. And then January comes around and it's like, hey, we got some really good offers for you. And I'm like, what was I even crying over? Like you look back at it personally, but I know like in that moment, you just gotta like you gotta let it out. You gotta let out the frustrations and
Yep,
like I said, I always take it with a grain of salt because at the end of the day, like I'm in a privileged position to be able to do this, and no one owes me anything. And I've never once carried that through my life. I never think that, and I will always be so thankful to every single individual I work with, whether they directly or indirectly help me in any form. And like that's why I think I loved the CS event so much is like how indirectly everyone helped me without them even realizing it. And so it's just like an amazing, amazing event for me.
for sure. And another thing I think of too is like, we're talking about all the games that you do for esports for being a host and everything. What would you say
Yeah.
the difference is between all of them, especially like Dota to Counter Strike, for argument's sake, because that's like they're
Yeah.
totally different games, totally different communities. Like, what would you say are some of the key differences if you could pick them out?
I think there's so many, but before I answer this, someone asked me this at Rotterdam, and I answered it, and Connor brought it up with me. Scrawny brought it up with me later, and he's like, "Oh, I heard you say this," and I was like, where did you hear that? He's like, oh, it made it a front page of Global Offensive. And I'm like, oh my fucking God, like I'm ready to like go Britney 2006 and like shave my head off. I'm like going down the spiral. And then I look and it's like someone's like posted it over to the Dota 2 subreddit too. And I'm like, oh my
Oh
fucking, like
my
the,
god.
the most painful thing I could ever do is hurt the community. Like I never, ever, ever want to do that. And I want to pick my words wisely, but I also don't ever want to lie. And I know like what I said, last time someone asked me was like, what are the differences in the communities? And I talked about how there's just a lot of higher stakes when it comes to CS events. You know, like I remember the Nico interview where he's like, "We made Paravision look better than they are. Like we're gonna prove them wrong." He doesn't have to say things like that. Like that was the
Nope.
things that I was referencing, right? That's what sort of adds like an extra gravitas towards it. And that's a difference. And that's not saying it's necessarily better or worse. I'm just saying there is that difference for sure. And and it's the differences that I think I like so much. You know, for CS, it's players are willing to say crazy things. There's also players that aren't willing to do it. You know, when I interviewed some of them, I was like, "What do you think about this?" And they're like, "I'm not going to answer that." And I was like, "Hey, man, I respect that. Like, that's totally fair. If you're a superstitious person, if you don't want to jinx it, me too. I'm actually quite superstitious, so I fully get not wanting to say it. But there's some personalities that are willing to do that. When it comes to arena events, I think the energy is extremely high for CS events, but in a different way that it's extremely high for Dota. Because for CS, the rounds reset. So you kind of get to have hype moments, clutch moments way more consistently, which just opens more opportunities for CS events, CS audience members and fans to like go crazy and get loud. But for Dota, it's a much slower crescendo towards what is the hype of a game ending or a game turning team fight. And it's like those highs might feel slightly higher than the CS highs, but they just happen a little less often than the CS ones. And so it is like two very different ways that you can feel an energy in an arena between fans. Um, Community wise, yeah, it's also really different because I remember some of the Dota subreddit being the most active when we had some of our younger players really enjoy using old chat and antagonizing a lot of other people. And I remember the subreddit going crazy on like the discourse around like should players do this, shouldn't players do that, all that sort of stuff. And whilst you guys don't have old chat in CS, it's like it's translated to interviews in some way. It's like that's where
Yeah.
the players show their personality. So it's just very funny that it's like I would love to see more of that from players. Obviously, within reason, we've have had players in Dota take it a little too far before,
Oh, wow.
but a
Okay.
little, yeah, a little tongue in cheek. I think is like so worth it. I
It
love it.
comes with the
I think it's so
territory.
good.
It comes with the
Yeah,
territory.
yeah, I think so too. But like I said, there's a line, and that's the thing. I think you can cross that line a lot faster in Dota um, than you can within CS, and it just manifests itself in a different way. But everyone's incredibly passionate about the game that they like, and so whilst I'd never really admit it, and this is the first time I think I'm ever going to publicly admit it, I love browsing the subreddits. I'm on that shit like all the time.
I go on there sometimes and then I'm just like I gotta distance myself. Like the some of the people, I mean, God forbid you post a comment that's just slightly a little bit different than the original post, then you just get downvoted into oblivion. It's just like, oh, like
Oh yeah, I don't think I've ever commented on anything on either subreddit, but I am a
good.
big enjoyer of reading things. Yeah, no, I again, like I said, I still love a lot of the communities and like the viewpoints and the takes people have, but it does give me the whole vibe of, oh, I love pancakes. It's like, what the fuck did waffles ever do to you? You know,
Yeah,
like that
like stuff
notorious
like
quote.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's why it's just like I am also understanding that things can be taken out of context when there is no context to take it out of. But no, I love it. I love the Dota 2 subreddit in the moment is like going crazy over this guy showing that like Slark is super imbalanced and it's a hero in Dota, but he's like super imbalanced in this new patch. And one of the things that Slark can do, his ability is detect when he's under enemy vision, and it just helps you deward a little bit more. And this guy posted and he's like, yeah, so you could like deward and blah, blah, blah. And anyway, the whole subreddit went into like investigative journalism mode and found out that he's like scripting and hacking or like whatever.
Oh
And this
my.
guy, yeah. Yeah. And so this guy's like posting saying this hero is so imbo. And everyone's like, bro, you're cheating. Like, what the
Oh
fuck is wrong
my
with you? And then he
god,
openly
man.
admits, he's like, yeah, I am cheating, but this hero is still really good. And it's just like my favorite thing that's happening at the moment is like this dude not giving a single fuck about cheating and everyone being like, why are you cheating?
You can't even make that up. Like, what are we doing?
That's why I fucking love the subreddit at times. I'm like, that shit is so fucking gold. Like I can't
That's
wait to
crazy.
reference that.
That was the last question I had for you. So again, I appreciate it. But for the outro, I like to shine the spotlight over to the guests. So if there's anything you want to plug, anything you want the people to know, anyone you want to shout out, whatever the case may be, The floor is yours to do so.
Oh gosh. I feel like this works way better for CS talent because like they're all overachiever like people talk about like Dota being the nerdy game. And whilst it is, the CS talent are fucking overachievers. These bros are like, yeah, so my sixth YouTube channel just hit like
Yeah.
1 million subs. And I'm like, okay, bro, like relax out here. Just fucking what the hell is this? I don't have anything like that. I mean, I got a YouTube channel. Pretty much everything's the same across like all social media platforms. If you guys want to give it a follow, it's NatTea. Pretty much everything. Some of them have underscores at the front of it because such a cool name. Everyone wants it, so it's super hard to get.
We'll put the links in the description too, so they can find them there.
Yeah. Perfect, perfect. But I don't have any cool upcoming projects. So my DMs are open if anyone wants to collab on some shit. Let's get that 6 YouTube channel to 1 million subs. Am I right, chat?
Alrighty, guys, that will do it for today's episode, man. Salute to NatTea. I hope we see her back in the space again. I mean, I think she did a really good job at Rotterdam. That was her first CS event that she ever got to do broadcast work for, so that was really interesting. And I think she did a good job, and it's probably not easy, you know, getting to just join a new game, especially Counter-Strike, when if you're not a face that people know and you appear on a screen, people are like, who the fuck is this? So, you know, I think she was very well accepted. A lot of people had a lot of great things to say about her that I saw. So, yeah, salute to NatTea, man, and everything that she did. But that will be it for today's episode, guys. Make sure you're liking, commenting, and subscribing. It makes my day truly. So thank you for everybody that has supported up to this point. I can't believe we're over 2 years at this point in time. Pretty crazy. So, yeah, we will catch you guys on the next one next Friday. Till next time, everybody.